Hello. Welcome to the Soul Connections podcast, Your Life Matters Soul Connections podcast. And I am your host, Junie Swadron. And today I have the honor and the privilege to welcome my good friend, may I say good friend now, Darrell Greenwood, and fellow author. Welcome, Darrell.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I am so excited. This has been in process for a while now. And with when we met and today you have this magnificent book that you just recently published. So we'll get there in a minute. I'm just going to actually read from the back of your book what it says about you.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, you can send it back to the printer. You can say, oh, no, I've changed it. Okay, so Darrell Greenwood is a dreamer, organic farmer. And for those who don't know, it's Livin' the Dream Farm in Shirley, British Columbia. You can Google that. It's extraordinary. It's a 3-generational farm. Okay. He's a spiritual teacher, writer. Oh yeah, writer extraordinaire, pioneer and transformational guide. He utilizes his lifelong passions in metaphysics and physical movement to fearlessly explore the possibilities of inner healing. Well, boy, you sure got that down. That says so much in so few words, and it says so much. So I can hardly wait to unpack so much more in our conversation today, right now. So congratulations, Darrell, on your first published book, Lantern on Longship. Oh my gosh. Look at this. It is stunning. So we're going to talk about this book and the cover and the name and all of that. It's an exceptional book. I mean, I've been working with a lot of authors over a long time, writers who become authors. And having had, I know this because not only because I've read it, because I've had the honor of working with you and at the beginning stages, and then you were on your way. And I was so excited every single time I received a new entry from you, because you're one of those exceptional writers who allows the reader to not just read the stories inside the book, but to lose themselves in the story. I mean, I become one. I'm inside the story with the protagonist. I'm walking the journey. I find myself holding my breath in every danger and exuberant when I can finally exhale with every success, and simply being swept away with every new venture, whatever it is that you're living, because of the insights and how you write it. It's basically a sit at the edge of your seat book, but it's a real life one. It's not a fiction book of whodunit murder. It's your life. And the fact that you're willing to go to the edges of hell, literally, to bring in the light and to withhold the light, and to know the light is what is really going to win in the end, no matter when it did not look like you were going to make it. You stayed steadfast. Oh my gosh, to the light, and the light and whatever else was going on would dissolve. I mean, seriously. Okay. And your book just takes us on these, well, probably going to be a little bit out of some people's comfort zone, because it's so extraordinary. And it takes a very brave and courageous person to go to the depths that you go to teach us what you learn, not in a teaching, preaching way, but through the stories themselves and the way in which you show us what's available at the highest realm for all of humanity, for us to be able to tap into how we can find that wisdom, right? And those truths for ourselves. So I want you to know, this morning, I opened the book just like this, okay? And I thought, okay, I wonder if it's going to have any relevance to tonight when we have our interview. So I want to read what I wrote because I mean, I didn't write it, so sorry, what you wrote. I want to read out loud what I read this morning. And what's so cool, it's just what I just finished saying. It's like, it just describes what I just talked about. Quote, like my ancestors, I chose to stand up and fight against all odds. I'm very fortunate to be alive and walking the earth plane today. I'm much more attuned to the field of gratitude because of the depth in the struggle. Each and every breath through my lungs is a gift. In this fall into these dark lands that has given me a new level of compassion. Sometimes beneath the smiling countenance of what we show to the world is the lost and deeply traumatized inner child. He's wandering through the shadows looking for some kind of meaning in life and something to believe in. I will never give up, you write. Every single fall is another chance to rebuild and to assist all worlds in new ways. Many lessons have been learned with this life, and it's not the end. If I'm down, given the choice, I'll never bow out. I will never give up, even if it's necessary to crawl. My heart yearns to carve new experiences. I need to walk forward once more to show the way. I can help others who are in the midst of battling powerful demons, forces that have no faces and no name. These dark nights are very real. It's too easy to look at another's invisible struggles and think they're not really happening. It takes tremendous inner courage and resilience to go in search of healing. Opportunities for healing are out there. Life will not keep you down forever. The sun will shine upon your world once more. Life here is a series of ups and downs. The fog will eventually clear, and there is always hope. Yeah. Yeah, well, there's a lot of mottos that you could claim in your book, and that would be another one. There is always hope. So, before we get into the heart of the book, Darrell, I want to ask you, so who was Darrell Greenwood before this book was written? Take us back to what you feel would be relevant for us to know as we move up in time to today.
Oh, wow. That's a powerful question right off the get-go. I feel most of my life I've been trying to shed identities. And in a world filled with identities, it leads you to some really interesting places in life. At a young age, it was my mom who really pushed me to travel because I was really lining myself up with a lot of trouble, a lot of troubled friends, and just a really rebellious nature. And when she pushed me to travel, I really aligned with my passion, which was moving at this time, like moving my body and exercising and visualizing and eating healthy and just really energizing the body. And
How old were you?
I was about 19. And then when I started traveling, I was just like 20, 21, 22, like in that age range.
Yeah.
Before I started traveling, I would say I was relatively, I was always seeking in my life, always searching for, always knowing there was a purpose. But I would say I was lost in many ways. And in the traveling experiences, I really came into alignment with just how much power is within our grasp when we can actually begin to teach what we love to do.
That's beautiful.
And
it's pretty incredible at such a young age to have that insight and knowing. Yeah.
And I began teaching like physical exercise and nutrition and
Mhm.
transformation and just meeting people where they were at. And I kind of did that work for a good 20 plus years. And um, now we're into farming and growing foods. So I studied nutrition and sports nutrition, and I spent a good amount of years like working either one-on-one with people, meeting them where they are at, and helping and guiding them into making better decisions in life. So I felt like that gave me a purpose to pursue. But
Mhm.
going through my 20s, I never realized that that wasn't my purpose.
Was at the time.
It was at the time.
Yeah.
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 And I feel like I was always drawn to writing. I mean, even as a 5-year-old boy, I would have dreams and visions of the cover of the book that you showed, and just the cosmos and the wide open universe, and the heart being kind of the message, and having the trees and the connection with the stars and the galaxies and the cosmos all interconnected into one voice.
And this book is this cover, which is exceptional. It's not a computer generated cover. This is a this is an original painting. Tell us about that.
So our good friend Kathy Hammond, she's an amazing artist. She actually
Okay.
did this cover for the book. And there was an actual 2 week period 3 years ago or 4 years ago, one of those two, and where I met you, Junie, and I also approached Kathy with the intention of designing the cover for this book. And it happened in the 2 weeks in a row, which was really neat. The universe was kind of just like pushing me to really write this book. And, when we had met, that was really quite magical.
Oh yeah.
And after that 2 week period, I was like, I'm going to write a book.
Well, the handwriting was on the wall. When I met you and I dropped my cards and you said, "Oh, what is it you do?" And I told you, you said, "Well, I'm looking for a writing coach." Oh,
Yeah.
and then it was the same week or two, or whatever, you talked to your artist friend, and here we are. Today
Mhm.
you're a published author.
Yeah.
So yeah, wow. So let's move on to the book.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the book. In fact, I'm going to read what it says back here. And that is so that, I mean, obviously it's so beautifully written, but it will leave no confusion to the listener of this podcast of what your book's about. The lantern is the eternal, omniscient glow of the heart. The longship is the crystalline, multidimensional vessel that traverses the majestic inner realms. When the light of your inner being falls dim, perhaps these written words will set your flame ablaze once more. Every breath that enters the belly, heart, and lungs offers the opportunity to grow, expand, and heal ourselves and each other. This is a flickering candle worth dancing for, a flame worth living and dying for countless times. This is a majestic fire where we can come together to warm the hearth of all souls everywhere. My greatest hope is somewhere within the written pages of this multidimensional storybook. There will be quantum breakthroughs, beautiful awakenings, and miraculous new beginnings. We can travel to the ends of the world, cross the unpredictable seas, or climb the highest mountains. No matter where we go, whether in this world or perhaps another, one certain truth remains the same. It is not possible to escape ourselves. If enough of us intentionally direct our ships toward the internal seas, we have the potential to not only navigate these transformational waters, but also paint the masterpiece of a new world. Wow, that's quite the statement. So, and yeah, it's there's just so much. Lantern of the Longship. Expand a little more than what it tells us right at the beginning. Tell us about your title, please.
Okay, well, to me, the lantern always has symbolized the heart center. So, you know, I often hear in ceremonies, the longest journey we're going to take in this lifetime is from our brain to our hearts. And
Right?
it's really only that far, but it's a tremendous.
Yeah.
And that when I was like really visualizing a name for this book, that was something. A lantern can be held in the fog, in the shadows, and it can always kind of navigate and guide us into places in search for breakthroughs, in search of healing, in search of hope, in search of helping and assisting others. So it was this kind of visual of having like this lantern that can kind of traverse into the darkness and into these realms where very few people want to visit, and not only navigate them, but come back with information that could serve the planet, can serve the, the animals. And the Longship is, I mean, I come from a large part of our background Scandinavian. And, you know, looking back as a kid over some of our ancestry, there was like Icelandic priests and storytellers and leaders. And like, it was like growing up, it was really, I guess, the focus was on the external world about wanting to kind of do courageous things in life, and you know, navigating through life enough so that it was possible to kind of discover what that journey would be. And when I was younger, I always thought it was going to be an external kind of exploring the external world and creating. And then I really had the experience that um, you know, the greatest journey we can make is when we walk into ourselves and go into our inner worlds and step into inner healing. So bringing that, you know, brave, bold, courageous spirit. And instead of looking on the outside, I really turned, like, as I'll say, it turned my ship around, my longship, and started to explore the unlimited terrains of inner healing, and just fearlessly navigating these different realms in hopes of helping others who may be going through darker times or ups and downs through my own inner healing journey.
Did you feel that that was, you know, before you wrote the book, or even were close to writing the book, did you get that sense as you were, you know, moving in those dark places or choosing to go into your deep inner healing, that one day it would be a book, one day it would be something that would be there, that whatever you would learn would come out one day in a way that it could help others? Was that part of it, or were you just really kind of focused, invested in your inner healing, or were you holding both at the same time? Or
Yeah, I feel like it's all in this lifetime, it's always been about wanting to serve at a really high level and do everything that I can to benefit the planet.
yeah.
And you know, having intentions that are set in those directions, there's many ups and downs. So I would say in the depths of like my darkest days, I was always holding hope for lights, holding hope for healing and breakthroughs, and visualizing like the best possible worlds. And in those places, I wasn't always focusing on like creating a book out of those experiences. I was just basically like sometimes trapped in my five senses, looking for ways to make my like sensitivities and subtle senses. I was at certain points in my life, I was trying to destroy those because I didn't understand how to use them in this world. So I went through quite a period of self-destruction where I was actually on a path of, like doing really dangerous things, like
Mm.
skiing really aggressively. And I mean, I jumped into shark infested waters off a cliff in Australia. I was like going off cliffs and stuff on skis. I just feel like I was trying to push myself to all these places, and what I was really searching for was the doorway within myself. And I was searching for all these experiences to prove to myself that I was worthy, or um, I had to prove something. I don't really know how to explain it, but it was quite a, like you were reading in that passage. I'm lucky to be alive.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you feel if you didn't get eaten by a shark, or you could go down these cliffs on skis and you survived, you kind of gone through some kind of initiation, and that now you deserve to have a better life, or that you will move into a direction where you can start to not test the odds so um yeah, in such scary ways, or extreme ways.
Yeah, because you know what, like doing those types of activities would take the pain away. And
Uh,
I never knew what the pain was or where it was coming
mm,
from, and until we can talk about that further as we get into the book, because I did
right.
start to learn. So I was always searching for ways to exterminate this
Got it.
incredible intensity, his pain. And when I would push myself and do these really extreme things, it would give me temporary relief. So everything that I was doing was always to the extreme and in pursuit of, some type of excellence. Um,
Mhm.
but it was out of balance.
Well, as you say, it was at a deeper place to take the pain away. You're
Mm.
hoping to take the pain away, whatever that would be. So it would be a temporary relief, as any addiction is, right?
Mhm.
People don't necessarily choose them for, oh, I think I'll do this because I'll get such a, it'll win me friends and influence people. No, it'll just help take away the pain for a little while. And we don't always think of it that way at the time. Getting into your book and talking about some of those things, um, like near the beginning, you're talking about the trauma of your birth experience. So I want to know, because how you would even know or remember that. How's that? How did you know about that?
Well, first of
In,
all,
as an infant. I mean, I know your mom told you the story, but the
yeah.
fact that how you in fact embodied that for yourself.
So our infantile brains can't recall trauma, but everything that we experience from the womb, from past lives, future lives, from even being an infant is stored in our bodies. It's in our DNA. It's when we experience things that are so intense, our mind isn't going to remember them. But if we're willing and courageous enough to sit with the big feelings that we spend our whole lifetimes either trying to bury, avoid, like, find some way to get rid of them, if we can just sit with them, um, and follow those emotions and the feelings that are in the body to the roots. And I've actually journeyed into them. I
Mm,
become really comfortable at sitting with extremely uncomfortable feelings where I didn't even know what they were. And um, when a lot of this stuff was coming up, I was able to kind of like thank God for my mom, because like I can go to her and she shares all of these like really what could be considered dark experiences, and shares her like her openness and willingness,
mm,
her ability to share. really gave me more courage to go into these places that some people say that don't even exist. But I started to realize that the pain that I was feeling, it starts, like, it might not necessarily be one event, but because we had created consciousness in some of our more intense experiences, we have to go back into that consciousness and heal it so that we can free ourselves more in our day-to-day lives. And yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, maybe you could, we could unpack it a little bit. When you say, we have to go into our consciousness in order to heal, well, how would somebody do that? What does that mean?
Well, like for me personally, it was like when I was telling you how I was spending a lot of my life trying to get rid of these intense feelings and this huge amount of anxiety. And I had a pretty good life, for most of my life. And it was like, kind of like, where is all this stuff coming from? And why, wherever I go, I could travel, I could be on boats, I could be like anywhere in the world, I could be on top of mountains, and all of this stuff follows me everywhere. And I would say there's no way, like, we come into these lifetimes and we do have key things that we're here to work on, each of us as individuals, and it's all different.
Right.
And there's certain things that are going to grip each one of us. And I came across a time in my life where I kept coming across information about time in the womb, time of conception, time of, like, what was your birth experience like? Did you get pulled away from your mother right away? Were you hugged? Were you, so there's all these things that started to come into my awareness. And as that was coming into my awareness more and more, I would meditate and go deeper and deeper into these like painful this near death experience right at birth, like basically fighting for my life and not understanding that walking through that doorway was creating a level of consciousness or energy that was going to come into life. And until I had worked through the challenges in my life and actually embraced it and let go of a need to like either prove myself or I was like almost like pursuing death, because coming into it, there was like something there. So yeah, I feel like that was a really powerful entry to writing this book. And it's it breaks my heart to oftentimes like to sit with all of that, and it's just really like crushing, intense, like very painful. And then once I started to understand that there was like medicine in this work that could be shared for others who are haunted by almost like, this, I don't want to say a curse, but you're haunted by these things you can't see. You don't know what they are, where they're coming from, and nobody can understand what you're going through, because it doesn't really have an answer until you're willing to go inside to your heart to hold that space for.
And it's hard for anybody else to understand because they're not seeing what you're seeing, and they're not feeling what you're feeling in the same way. So it's hard. So it's a lonely place to be too, I would imagine. Right.
Maybe that's what created this, like this, this insatiable desire to want to travel into these different planes. Maybe it was that an immediate interaction with death and being that close to exiting and then coming back. It almost feels like my whole life I've been very connected to other worlds.
And well, and it's very clear in your book where you describe what those could be as well. And you talk a lot in your book too. You refer often to getting messages from spirit guides or getting divine assistance, um, maybe even at the 11th hour, and some things that would really, you know, hard to ignore stuff. And so maybe you could share with us a couple of those times and tell us more about that. And can anyone receive their own divine, unique guidance from the universe? Maybe you'd like to share some real life examples of what happened to you in those times when you were willing to go wherever you needed to go to heal beyond where most people would maybe traverse, and you would get these messages.
Yeah, I'll share two briefly, and the very first one was my mom and my biological father's divorced, and it happened really suddenly, and we were kind of thrown into like a I was 5 and my brother Jason was 3, and we were thrown into an unknown like portal of just partying and darkness and decay. And I go quite in depth into that in the book. And I remember just being unable to sleep and just praying, just something help me, like help my mom, my brother, like we want to have a better life, like please, like just being up all night just praying. And I've never been to church, and I don't even know like where this came from. And shortly after, like I can't remember how many months or weeks had passed by, but I wandered out into one of these parties, and I actually met the man who raised me, Ken Greenwood, and he came over to me and helped me because I was in a really rough place. And I just really feel like all of the praying and the asking and talking directly to the universe, and there was a solution, and that turned our life around and put us onto a whole different path. Um, so that was one really powerful time, and
Let's just stay with that one for a minute, because that one had a huge impact on me as well. Because there you were, terrified, a little boy, 5 years old, in your room, all of these, all the partying, the noise, the strange sounds, strange, I don't know, entities, whatever. But there was something in you, as you say, you don't even know you didn't go to church, just looking, please help, please help. And it came in the form of an earth angel. It wasn't, because often these others were like unseen angels, unseen companions. They're, from other worlds or whatever. That, but here it is, and I know for me too that my prayers are often answered by that, just the earnestness, or just asking for what I want. And there is countless unseen companions, angels ready to help when we ask. And so that was such a beautiful experience, because here was, out of this crowd of people just partying, this gentle man that said, okay, I'll go get your mom. And he did. And the rest is history, in terms of he's, he adopted your kids, and he's been your dad ever since.
And right before, like being in that bedroom in a place of like just sheer hopelessness, like just completely broken, that there was a guide that gave me the courage to actually go through the party. Just I'd gone through the parties enough times where it was almost like hopeless. There was never any support or help, and yeah, it's just broken at every level. And yeah, there was like a tall Scandinavian guide, long braided beards, and he would come into my life in these really dark places and meet me. And he gave me the courage to go out in, is almost like all these synchronicities were aligning. And I just always listened to them. And that night when I did wander out, I just met the man who raised me, like my dad, that was there, and our life's turned around. So it's those types of experiences that give me the fire inside to want to help other people, because so many times in my life I've been in those situations and people show up to help me, and I want to give back because it's happened enough times in my life where I understand how important it is to want to be out there offering assistance in any way to people who are struggling. And I can
Mhm.
to being broken and like lost and hopeless. So in a lot of ways, it was a gift having those experiences.
Oh, there's no question in every way, because it's made you even more so who you are. And so that you do know the truth of that. There is so much benevolence out there in so many forms. So what was the other one that you were going to share with us, that of the many, many in your life where you got this guidance beyond?
We grew up in Prince George. We actually moved to Vancouver when I just turned 13. And I was probably about 8, 9, or 10 at this time. And in Prince George, the winters are just amazing. Like you get feet like 8 to 10 feet of snow sometimes. Sometimes so much snow where cars can't even drive down the road. And it's cold enough where it's like powder. So it's like as kids, you're just basically like in a winter wonderland. And we were actually playing, and I was out in our front yard. We were on like a highway in Prince George, or a well-used road, I should say. And my brother and our two friends were in the backyard, and we were making snow angels. And I ran into the front, and there's no cars on the road. So, I'm just face down making a snow angel. And a female voice was like, "Stand up now," like really like urgent, like. And I listened. I stood up. I got out of the snow, and right when I lifted my head up, there was a gray van with open doors, and two men that were right about to grab me. And oh, it was like perfectly timed, because if I don't know the intent, it was so intense that when the voice came through, I don't know if I couldn't have listened, like, because I often for months afterwards I would think, what if I didn't listen to that voice? What if I would have like just kept my head down and said, well, it's nothing, or but there was nobody around me on the outside. There was no woman there. There was no other people. It was just me and tracks of, there was just endless snow all around and a really hard road to navigate. There was no cars. So this one van that was there, I mean, I'm just so grateful. But that made me believe that every moment is extremely valuable. You never know when your last one's going to be. And I became much more appreciative of being alive and of having, my brothers and my mom and dad and my family, because it could have all been gone. I don't know what would have happened.
Right. So you got that voice that said, get up now. And you did. And these people were about to grab you and take you in the van, but you screamed. And didn't your brother and friends come running around from the
Mm-hmm.
backyard as well? And they just took off. They
They ran.
ran. They ran. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just enough time, because and I was just started screaming after I realized like kind of what was happening. And that brought like you said, the attention of my brother and friends running around. The people were gone. But for
Wow.
for years, like even sometimes I still wake up now, and I wake up with like this shock of like, the unknown. And
Mm.
the healing is ongoing. Like you don't just heal things and they disappear. Like they always come back in new layers and different experiences of life, and they revisit in ways that, if again, if you follow the feelings to them, it goes right back to that particular experience. And when I was younger, I would often feel those feelings and not really want to acknowledge that they were there. So like a lot of times I would get involved with like, um, just like really intense things, because it seemed to take away the pain, but the pain would never go away until I actually embraced it and built a new relationship with it. And even then it still comes back.
Well, as you say, I don't know. Well, it's an interesting question, how long they come back. If you know, I mean, sometimes I get the sense that, certain things that I have healed or felt that I'd healed, and then all of a sudden this surge of pain, anguish. What is this about? I've dealt with this, and it's another layer. And so I wonder if there's these layers that just keep going on forever, or there are times that it's just like, nope, that's gone. That's gone. And I think there are, because there's a lot of things I remember from my past that don't affect me anymore. I don't get triggered by them anymore. They've been healed to the degree, but they don't seem to last as long because there's been so much healing already. They don't have to, they feel that intense. They feel like, oh my gosh, but they can move with focused intention to work with it. They can go move through me a lot faster. So some of those stories, I mean, you sometimes write about hell, the actual talk about hell. Can you explain what that means to you?
Sure. I don't want to really step on anybody's belief systems or any, so I'm just going to share through my own experience. But what I feel, what the hellish realms would mean to me is being locked in the five senses, in a survival nervous system where it's basically like extreme fight or flight, where it feels like there's no way out, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to possibly do, and it's completely unsafe. And it's hell is when you live your reality from that state of consciousness. It's like being like in this state of shock and bewilderment, and instead of not you I don't know, it's hard to ask for help when you're in that place, because deeply and honestly it feels like nobody can help and nobody would understand. So instead of asking for help, it's really easy to just face it head on, which only amplifies the intensity. So it just creates this existence of yeah, it's all self-created. Like we have a choice. If in this reality, it's all fabrics of energy. We can choose where we want to participate um, with our lives here. But there's certain times where it feels like the blinders are on and we're unaware of that.
But when you say, I'm just curious, when you say locked into the five senses of this outer reality, so that would, and living from that place, am I getting that right?
Yeah,
And
it's
the
like being
five,
in a tunnel where it's only like all we're aware of is what we see, what we smell, what we hear, what we're feeling. And it's almost like instead of taking responsibility, that we have somehow created that state or that place that we're in, we focus on fighting the external world and for um, looking for ways to defeat something out there in this consciousness. And that only amplifies, like the more energy you put into that way of thinking, the stronger the struggles are going to become, to a point
so you just, sorry.
where you do literally create your own living hell.
By defending what you see, what you hear, what you smell, so that as though that would be the only truth. Is
Yeah,
that what you're kind of like that person who's seeing from that or coming from that perspective, it would be their only truth, that there wouldn't be another one. And so it just becomes more and more frightening because they don't see. So how do you get out of that then? How do you move from, I mean, the obvious, okay, well, you start looking inward, but can you give some examples of like practical tools of how when somebody's feeling like they're right, Okay, they saw that. I witnessed it. They know what they saw. They know what they see. They know how they feel. They know how they were treated. All of that. They know it was unfair. They know that this was horrific. How do they get beyond that?
So a way that I like to explain this type of topic is, imagine being in a tunnel, and the universe, the divine assistants, our guides, like it even feels like God's, like everything backs away from this tunnel. And the reason this happens is because creation loves us so much that it wants to give us space so that we can regain and connect back to our personal power, take responsibility for our lives. And everything seems to back away so that we can reclaim our personal power. And once we hit rock bottom and we get to the lowest points of our lives, this is a chance where we can make a tremendous shift in our life. And once I feel that that responsibility that is taken, that we've kind of created our reality, and that no matter how bad or low it is, that there's still light somewhere that's going to find its way through the tunnel once we open up our hearts to receive it. That's the first step. It's just acknowledging that this is where I am at. It really is not where I want to be. It's the opposite of where I had foreseen myself as being. And hitting that place so hard and it's such a shock that it almost feels like the only option is to surrender.
Mhm.
And then I personally started to realize that there's always light. And that tunnel vision, or that tunnel of being in this really dark, hopeless place, light can still move into that place. And the quickest way to build a relationship to that light is to just somehow connect to our hearts. Breath work, like meditation, prayer, like just getting out into nature and just letting the tears fall, screaming,
Mhm.
like, just having, if there's friends or groups that can hold space for some of these emotions that are stuck in our bodies. Once we
Mm.
move these experiences through us, then we're more likely to connect to our true selves, which are eternal. And, we're sparks of the divine. And we're more than this human experience. But when we're in deep struggles, all we seem to think is, um, this is my only life and my only chance to do something, and I'm messing it up. Or,
Or someone messed it up. It's not my fault, or
yeah,
whatever it is, but it's just so desperate that there's no hope. There feels like there's no hope. And sometimes it's true. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you're ready to just say, okay, help me. I don't know what to do anymore. All the defenses are gone. And that's the most beautiful place to be, because that's where all the light can come in.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. But you don't have to get down to that place. They're not, people don't have to go right to the bottom of the pit in order to start to meditate or start to look for other ways in which to heal, because there's always hope. There's always a new day. There's always, and the thing that's taken me a lot of years to realize, now it's been a lot of years since I have, but when I grew up in a home that was it had a lot of abuse and a lot of pain and a lot of things that were not easy to live with. And I was very shy and scared and all the time and whatever. And but if I happened to be with a friend and was having a good time, if I walked into the house and and the energy in the house was gloomy and dark and angry, there's no way I could come in with my laughter that I just left my friend in the park. No way. And so for my whole life, a lot of years, many, many decades of my life, was I couldn't feel anything. I'd have to kind of move into whatever the going mood was so that I didn't bring too much of me or whatever. or I wouldn't bring in my own gloom when there was joy, or I wouldn't bring in the joy when people are sad or whatever. And I've come to know that I can hold deep grief and pain in me and feel that. And at the same time, absolutely, without any reservation, totally love and embrace a child's laughter or a sunrise or a sunset or a wagging dog tail or something. I mean, we can carry more than one thing at a time. We can feel that, and we can also be present to the light. And I never knew I could. And I don't remember when I learned that I could, but I did, and I am, and I do. And but sometimes, you know, this past year has been a hard one for me, and yet I chose to use that as often as I could. Get into nature. Oh, nature asks nothing of us and gives everything. Right? So, Darrell, what is a star seed?
Well, you know, I truly feel that all of us are star seeds, and in
What
like
are we?
eternal essence is comprised of comets, stars that have done their entire journeys of, you know, suns and moons and all these like memories that are like, it's all inside of our DNA. And for some reason, I think in some lifetimes we choose to come in as like highly sensitive beings. And when you're born, there's like, instead of having five senses, there's multitudes of different senses that are almost like feelers or tendrils. And some of us are born with these tendrils that reach into all these different inner cosmos, because the information's all inside of us, that have information. And you know, like there's light and there's healing and there's all kinds of like levels of consciousness and energy that can be shared with evolving planets. And the trick is like, if you're born like that, it's believing that those subtle senses, they aren't a curse, they're not something that cause pain, it's actually a gift. And once you open up to understanding that all the things that make you incredibly different are holding gifts that can benefit all the creatures on the planet and all other beings in creation, that we can connect to these aspects. So, you know, to me, a star seed is being able to navigate into the inner realms and not having the five senses to just like explore the world, but being able to go anywhere in the whole multiverse and being able to use our inner technology and to go and journey and guide and have our guides assist us into going into other dimensions and worlds and places to bring back information that can be in a extremely valuable in a time like we're in right now. Right? Like we're in a really transformational time, and the planet is bringing out all the tools, and we're living on Mother Earth, a living being, and she's all this new energy that's coming onto the planet and showering through our sun. And we have this amazing opportunity to play with this energy, you know, to like create and to share and to inspire each other so that we can help each other remember who and what we truly are. And it might not resonate with some people, but with other people, they're going to say, yes, that's me. And I'm going to be courageous enough to share that that's me. And I can go out and speak to other people about it, and I can write about it, and I can write stories about these different experiences. And for some people, they're not going to be able to, they're probably going to say that I don't relate to that. And it's all good. All of us are different.
All of us are different, and that's what makes us unique. And sometimes people will be ready and they'll resonate, and and it just depends. And what matters is that that we have the courage to go out and be that, and speak our truth in ways that are authentic for what we know, because it's really easy today with the world the way it is, and so divided, and um, so much pain, and so much separateness, and so much um, confusion and uncertainty. And it's so easy to get seduced into the outer world of what's going on, that it's easy for to just not even know that there is light beyond CNN, that there's anything beyond the news, and which makes people incredibly fearful. And so, how do people who are the light bearers, or the star seeds, or the people who want to share their knowledge and light, do it in a way that's not threatening, and can maybe speak to some of these people who are so immersed in the fear that's on the planet today?
Well, through my own experience, I feel like it's really important to find a community that resonates with who you truly are. And
Mm,
when you have a community of like soul family, like, friends, like when we met, like we had an instant connection, and we could talk deeply into spiritual topics. And, like it's surrounding ourselves with like minds and like energies, and
mm,
other people that are coming from maybe denser situations in their lives and are going through rough times. They find their ways into breathing circles or
mm,
plant medicine ceremonies. And, then we expand our community by taking turns. And when I'm down, somebody's holding space for me. When somebody else is down, they come into a community and I can hold space for them. And,
mm.
it's like this reciprocating spiral of energies. And with enough of that type of work, then a lot of people tend to find themselves at a market environment. Like, the market's pretty far out. And there's like 30 or 40 different people there, all sharing, like just laughing, eating, like,
Mm.
and
Right.
then somebody that's lost wanders in there, and there's 40 different chances to like laugh, smile, connect to joy, and to maybe think, what, life is pretty good despite the
Well,
time.
that's just it. Absolutely. And I think maybe that's a key too, is that we are innate. We are joy. We are love. We are beauty. We are precious. We are everything. We are all those things that love symbolizes of goodness. And the more I think that we can tap in and go and find those places of joy and dance and be, like you say, in community. And for those of us who are incredibly, there's so many sensitive beings, highly sensitive beings, and and can and um, sometimes it's really important, or often, to just keep coming back to our own center again and again, again and again, if we're, so that we're not taken out by other energies that aren't even ours, that aren't even ours. And so it's really important, I think, to just keep that light, know that we are that. And if we have to rebalance a million times a day, so we do. But generally speaking, it doesn't, yeah, it's whatever it takes. Read poetry, go, take photographs, go into, a park and just look at a leaf. What was it? The other day I was in a park, and oh my gosh, this I saw something that was so minute, like really, really tiny. And I looked, and it was a different color than the bark. And it was the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest ladybug in the whole wide world. I think it was just born. And there it was. And so ladybugs are the symbol of my sister, Barbara, who passed away. So that's what we have a lot. So I said, well, hi, Barbara. Great to see you here. I mean, oh, look at that. It's a ladybug. Okay, whatever. But it's, or it could have been whatever it is, that we can just read in anything that'll bring us some joy. And that's so important. So, when you were, okay, well, I'll ask you another couple of questions, and then I want to ask you about the book writing itself, okay? But what is, okay, without spoiling anything in the book, what can you tell us about Mercatio?
Ever since I was really small, I've had a guide that's been a tremendous protecting force for me. And he's always associated with a drum. Throughout my life, like even in the darker times, like he's always present, and he's always giving, there's always a space for my own learning and personal growth, so there's no interference at all. And as I started to get into more plant medicine, like navigating through plant medicines, I started to really develop a really interesting relationship, and started to understand that he's actually a future lifetime of and he shows up to me in visions and dreams, and there's synchronicities that kind of like plant seeds that allow me to align with like certain events in my life and ceremonies in my life, where I start to meet people and things start to happen. And even the move from the mainland to the islands, there's just been so much protection. So I kind of feel like on the earth, we're in time and space. And in a lot of other dimensions and realities, there is no time and space. There's only this one moment. And every decision, every thought, every feeling that we have influences like a ripple into the future and into the past. So when we start to, like you said, when we start to rediscover our center point time and time again, we go offline, we find ourselves back at center. We go into huge happiness and joy, and then we can find ourselves back at center. And the more practice we do at aligning ourselves with the present moments, the greater the access we have to connecting to more and of who and what we have been, and also what we could be. So with Mercatio, he's in the cosmos, and having already completed a large sense of the reality as we know it, and now he's a guide in a ceremonial space that allows me through journeying to sit, and a lot of the times it's by a tremendous blue, like gigantic fire, and with other beings and other forms of energy and lights and orbs, and just to like not necessarily ask questions about who or what's going on, but just fill my heart with all these endless possibilities.
Well, one of the things that sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Just to finish off, and to
Yeah.
use inspiration of this connection to share with through writing, through meeting people at markets, and coming into contact with different people. Like it's inspirational to know that this reality that we're in is far more vast than we could ever comprehend.
Wow. One of the things that I love about your book, and it's is that you bring us into these multiverses. You bring us into the places in a way that it just flows. And what I was saying earlier is that I'm not reading a book anymore. I'm right in there with you. I'm beside you. I'm, you know, or I'm going through these experiences as though it is me in the experience itself. That doesn't leave room for question. It's just it's like a wide-eyed child, innocent child going, wow, what's this? And what's this? And what's that? And sometimes it's, right? And other times it's, oh, yes. And realms and dimensions I would never even necessarily know of, but it's so natural. And the way in which you tell it to us and then explain and share what you've learned. You do it so poignantly, you do it so brilliantly in your book in a way that for those who don't necessarily know that language, you bring it to us in a way that we can understand it because you say it in many different ways. Whatever it is, you will bring us back to that experience with a different way of looking at it and yet a different way. And oh my gosh, and here's another way. And so I love that about the book, you know, that it was just flawless. I mean, seamless rather, just in such a beautiful way. Um, and so with respect to, well, you often write about a new earth as well. So tell me what you're talking about with the new earth.
When I was traveling, when I was 20 or 21, I think it was 20 in Australia, I was in Fiji, and I just done a long flight, and it kind of there's a story in the book about this as well. And there
Mhm.
was one really fascinating night. It was the second night that we arrived in Fiji. My friends went off partying, and I was just needing some space to just kind of, just connect and just ground myself. So I walked around the island and crossed my legs and just leaned against a palm tree. And you hear the ocean, and at the time, I never realized that I had practiced meditation in many lifetimes. And, it was like growing up, it was always about external worlds. And I actually like went on a really deep journey there. And I walked into, it was like the fabrics moved aside and I walked into like a new world. And it was Earth. And everything was working together. There was no predators. There was no evil or good. There was an understanding that we reap what we sow to such a level that everybody worked together and shared their gifts, knowing that the more we did that, the more that would reciprocate into this new stream of consciousness. So, in this vision, there was a connection to the animals, to the trees, to our thoughts and feelings, and that are how our reality and even like the weather and the types of food that were being grown were all connected to the level of consciousness that every being shared and offered, knowing that the better work that we did on ourselves, the better our world would become. So I really got to sit in this amazing, I want to say at the time it was like a fantasy worlds, and it it was interesting because it felt like I was only there for a few minutes. But then when I kind of came back and opened my eyes again, like I'd been sitting there for like most of the nights.
Wow.
It felt like I was
That's
gone for like moments, but also like maybe hundreds or thousands of years because I didn't know like what that necessarily meant or how that was going to be useful until I got into my 40s.
so did you always carry that vision with you, or did you write it down? Did you just have now a sense inside of you that this is what's possible and this is what's going to come to pass, or?
Mhm. It actually was a blessing and a curse because in a in a deeply unconscious worlds, when you come back and when you have an experience like that, you're never the same. And you're looking and searching for ways to make that world a reality, and to somehow like tie it together with this one. And it led me to some really dark places, because it was I never gave up hope that, living through my 20s and 30s, um, because I always knew there was a possibility and a purpose, and a hope for a better world for our children and grandchildren, and so on. And so that has been driving me my whole life to like carry that experience and look for ways to share it. And I never realized, like, I always knew I'd be writing, but I needed to go through the darkness. I needed to experience like the real lower realms of consciousness. I needed to survive that. I needed to develop compassion around how much we can suffer as human beings. And I needed to experience various forms of addiction and um, depression, and like some really challenging things. And looking back now, I'm so grateful that like there was a strength in me to be able to endure and to survive and to hold on to hope and to believe that there's a new world awaiting us that we are creating. It's not just going to show up out of somewhere. We're in the midst of creating it right now, and being able to kind of write a book that not only shares the possibility of a new earth, of a new world, but also the benefits that come through struggling and doing deep shadow work. Because as we're not going to be able to release those aspects of ourselves and to heal them until we can actually make space and hold space for those. Right. So with true spirituality, what I believe is that we're always going to have a shadow, and we're always going to have a sun. And we're never going to be just completely a sun or embodied on earth, or completely a shadow. There's always going to be bits of both. But in writing this book, what I'm most proud of is that it covers the dark and the light.
Yes,
And
it does.
in no ways is it saying to anybody, just don't look at the dark. In fact, look, like,
Oh, I
find
misinterpreted. It didn't say that.
find tools to go in and navigate the dark. Like, now in the world we're in now, it's like, ask for help, be brave enough to ask for help. Like, don't think that, like, our ego sometimes makes us think we have to do everything ourselves. And like you said earlier, you don't have to hit the floors of a burning hell to find a better life. Like, it can be done in a middle ground. And if you're struggling, then it's always an option to just kind of like be vulnerable enough to just ask for help. And
That's right.
there's a lot of good tools out there.
Oh, all we do is need to have that intention, set the intention, be willing to ask for help, and we'll get it. Because people, I think, I believe, I know, at our core, we want to give help. We're very loving, generous at our core. And if somebody says, hey, I need some help, I'm going to say, and most people are going to say, how can I help you? What do you need? But we don't know if nobody tells us. Moving to a couple of things that you said, or just circling back to them, like when losing hope or going through a really dark time because you had that dream, or you had that vision of a new earth and what's possible, and you were shown that when you were very young, and then not to see the proof outside. I think there are many of us, I know for me, having grown up in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and that whole time of brotherhood and love and what and what the world can look like when we come together and we sing and we protest what's wrong, and we it's like no more war, and let's march for peace, and let's do all the things that in our hearts were. And there were so many of us, there were millions on the planet, right? And I remember these marches, and I remember going to these sit-ins, and I remember going to folk um, festivals and the best music in the whole wide world, all singing about peace. And that was the songs then. And then it collapsed on itself. the hippies became yuppies where I was born. And it was just a whole different vibe. And people who were like, well, where did all that hope go? Where did all that brother and sisterhood go? Where did all the fighting for freedom go? Where did all the, you know, and it was for me a time that was just so painful. I didn't know how to navigate through that time for that big dream that I always felt this is what this is what we're doing now. We're turning around that world order. I mean, back then I thought that, and now I believe we are again, only it's different because we've learned so much. And I believe those of us who are still on the planet from my generation, and there's a lot of us still here, remember those days. And those of us who have always carried um, those tenets, those values in our heart, embrace it even stronger. And there just seems to be more and more and more and more people and that are coming together that embrace the spiritual principles of things that are life sustaining. And so I really trust that we are moving in that direction. You won't know that if you turn on the news, which I don't listen to because I need to just stay focused with my light. And then how do I help others? Just by showing up. And I don't know. I just, we don't have to do anything. We just carry that light with us. And it's amazing. We don't have to go very far before we see someone in need or whatever. It's just energy. Energy carries. So it's a really beautiful, we're really in the heart, I think, of this massive transformation of this planet that's never been seen before. Or if it is, it's been so many millions or billions of years ago that I don't know about it. But it's so potent right now. And we all have a choice of where we're going to put our energy and put our focus, put our hearts. So, Darrell, what do you think the book has come to teach you? What did you learn from your book, writing it?
Well, going back to the first conversation I had with you was about be courageous to speak your truth. Like, even if it's different than 95% of the world's, but it's having the courage to explore the heart and to share and to really so I've learned tremendously, and I've always valued authenticity. And I just, in a sense, being highly sensitive, I always had to kind of be a bit more reserved and play really small, and just kind of, just to keep people happy. And I could never really share my full truth because it was like wild and like really like different. And I was a weirdo, a good weirdo,
To
but just
others.
being comfortable in just finding joy in every moment, and continually exploring the heart, and journeying, and really just mining any kind of tools that can be utilized and helpful for this time in raising consciousness and stepping into that purpose where I'm here. I feel in my heart to raise consciousness. And part of being a pioneer in that is having to go through the ups and downs, and going really down and up and down, and understanding that like the goal isn't to just be good here, just to get to a place where, okay, I figured it all out. It's like, no, there's going to be continual ups and downs. And when we're up, we can look for ways to share and inspire others. And when we're down, we can understand that, like, we're going to come back up again. And what can I gain as like useful soul fuel, like useful soul, like treasure when I'm down, that can actually allow me, when I move on from this experience, human experience, to take with me into the next journey. It's kind of looking at it more like that.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the only ways to look at it because we're, like you said, I don't think on this planet, as long as we're on this planet, and if we haven't fully stepped into 5D, into a higher dimension of being all the time, when we're still physically in this planet as well, there's going to be, if there's light, there's dark, if there's high, there's low, we're going to have the different things. And I think our task, or mine, is to be able to navigate that, remembering that there are gifts in everything we live. And so if there is a challenge, it's remembering that we learn things in these challenges. They come to us as teachers. And then wrapped in every one is a gift and many gifts. And so when I can remember that, no matter what, doesn't mean that I always do or that I'm good at it when I'm really sunk into a place that's very, very, very painful. But there's that, there's that crack. I was trying to think of the crack of light, Leonard Cohen, there's that little crack of light. There's that little light that comes through no matter what, that reminds me, Junie, this isn't the end. This is just where you are right now. It's okay. You have a right to hold on to the pain you're feeling. It's real and you're feeling it. Embrace it. Love yourself more, not less. It's okay. And know this too shall pass. And there are gifts here too. And me, very much like you, I've always got two hats on. We'd all learn, but how can I also help others with what I've learned? How can I transmit to others the wisdom of what has been shown to me? And so we live in a beautiful universe at a beautiful time. And there is so much to be grateful for. And I'm so grateful to you, Darrell Greenwood. I am so grateful. I'm so proud of you, if I may say that, for you who were, a little reticent to tell the truth as it being your story and wanting it to make it a different story, a fictional story, a sci-fi story or whatever. And when I mentioned that to you, that this is you, take it on. This is your truth. I didn't have to say it more than once, Darrell. It wasn't like I was coaxing or encouraging you every single time. The next time I saw you, read what you wrote, it was from your experience. And I recognize the vulnerability in that. What was the most difficult story to tell?
Oh, when I went back to being a small kid, and like you had told me, and when you told me this, I never believe anything until I experience it. But you said when you write, it's like it's very shamanic and it's very, very powerful. You're going to bring to life, even though it's the past consciousness, that energy is going to come back to life. And that's how we can become creative. And I felt like when I was writing about being like a 5, 6, 4 to 7 year old kid, and all of a sudden it was like the energy was like in, and I could smell like booze and cigarettes and weird smoke, and it's like those like energies, those really dense energies were surrounding me again, and it made me think like, ooh, I need to like go back to my old habits to cope with this. So in writing those stories, I had to like really utilize this amazing healing community that we're in. I worked with a healers that were able to kind of like help me understand that I could hold space for that young version of myself, that little broken child that was like weak, and like, all these different things that kind of come up from being a male, where yeah, I was broken at every level. But I've been putting it all back together again. And what a beautiful, beautiful lesson it is to be broken. and to be like almost shattered to pieces, because when the pieces all come back together again, like it's not the same as what you thought it was, but it's multidimensional. It's like a hologram. Every piece that comes in shows the whole. And as more pieces come together, it's easier to view the fact that we are a piece of creation. And that makes it more motivating and more inspirational to actually go through and write into darker areas, and to really explore these feelings and these belief systems that we have, and to like look for ways to unlock these doors. And it makes the path easier for my kids,
That's
and
right.
for their kids. Somebody eventually has to come up to these dark places and say, like, what
The
is
buck
there?
stops here.
And it feels like for some reason it was like, I feel like I've been a stopper for that. Like I go and meet with these energies, and um and at first I felt like my purpose was to fight them. So I'd go into these invisible realms and I would fight these darker energies. And now I understand that I can actually going in and not fighting with them, but being able to hold boundaries and navigate and look for the learning and the treasures that are behind these dark areas that just get left behind.
Hmm. I did something today that we'll talk about full disclosure, and because I too, like you, I totally believe in authenticity, although there's sometimes things could be private as well, and that's just as valuable. But something, okay. So I am aware of a past life as a child in the last war, in World War II, where I was basically, the worst. And and in the camps, and just a little girl. And to this day, still, every now and again, especially when I'm in the shower, and we all know about the showers, and these all of a sudden these memories come flooding in, and I like this happened today, and it happens every now and again, and it's like, what? Still stop. And I just started, no, I screamed it. Enough. You're not coming back here. You're not welcome here. I do not need this energy anymore. And I don't know if it was right or wrong or what, but it's what I needed to do in the moment to put a stop to that. And I just kept talking. I kept talking to the universe. I kept talking to God. If you want me to be a light worker here, and I want that, I cannot tolerate those kinds of dark, terrifying memories infiltrating me. Stop them now. We'll see. But that's very different than embracing them and saying, oh, come on in, you're welcome. There are certain things that, for me, so I don't know what your thoughts are about that in terms of the healing journey, because I know that as you're talking, we all have, various things that come unbidden. Not all of them, perhaps. And we don't know where or why now. And I've done a lot of work with this over my life, I assure you. And then still sometimes, but it's the first time ever that I just took control. No, that's it. Leave now. And I took authority. And I think you
Nice.
did that in stories in your book as well.
Yeah, there's certain like levels of our experiences that no longer serve us.
Well,
We've learned over and over and over and over, and you're right, it does come to a point where it's important to recognize that, and just we can't open all the doors. and to just like, if anything, just see what the learning was at a soul level. And then if we get it, then just say, you know what, like this is completed, thank you. And then we can move into more like plant new seeds and move into new experiences.
Totally, which I do, and we do, and that, yeah, it's just that was the intuitive guidance that I got at the time, and as opposed to becoming overtaken by it. So, what message would you like to leave today with respect to your book, Lantern on the Longship? What would you want people to receive from this magnificent work of art?
You know, the main message that I always feel in my heart is to never give up on yourself.
Right.
Always believe that there's a better tomorrow ahead. But never give up. Like there's always something that there's a breakthrough that could just be right around the corner.
Who we got here?
This is Buddy.
Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. Well, look at you, buddy. You never gave up. You said, okay, Dad, I'm coming up for a kiss. Aw.
To always just keep getting up and keep looking for ways to keep living. And, you know, that would be my main message. And life does turn into something beautiful, even if you've been in really dark, desolate places. And if we're willing to just keep dusting ourselves off and keep walking forward, then we're given the opportunities to share our experiences with others, and our stories become richer.
Absolutely. Well, that's a beautiful, beautiful message. So where can people find you, Darrell?
Well, I always like to meet people in person.
I was just thinking that. Oh, we'll go to the Shirley Market or the Souk Market on
Yeah,
Saturdays.
so much fun we're at the Souk Market on Saturdays. It's 10 to 2. It goes till the middle of October. But you know, when you meet
That
people
happens to be, by the way, for people don't know, because this goes international all over the world. So that's British Columbia. That's Victoria. It's on the island of Vancouver Island.
and then you can reach us. Our website's called it's www.rootedwithlove.net. And we've got
Net.
and we're also a part of Living the Dream Farm. So we've got lots of different things going on, and you know, we're looking for all kinds of ways to just be creative and have fun. And we're sharing like freshly grown organic foods to boost the light up for and boost health up in people. And you know, writing and like my wife Katie makes all kinds of potions and we're courses, and you know, there's all kinds of things we're doing. It's expanding all the time. So
well, we're going to have all those ways of contacting you up on the notes here on the podcast. And so people will be able to see that right away. And wow, that's very exciting. And you like to get, you know, you're open for talks and things like that as well, aren't you? To be with your book and share, you know, in more intimate ways, so people can get in touch with you in the ways in which that you just gave them with the contact information. They can just write to you and bring you to wherever they are. And
yeah,
that's
I
fantastic.
really love like interacting in person, you know, like being with people and being able to kind of like share energy and to really I always feel like with eye contact, and there's something about like person to person contact. That's
There's nothing like it. Yeah, for sure. Well, this is a pretty good second because I feel the energy. Energy is right here, and I'm so grateful for this technology. So thank you. So thank you so much, Darrell. Is there any last words that you care to give, or are we just ready to send our love, right, rooted with love? Thank you. Namaste.